Hello there, this is Kerry Decker, and I wanted to speak to you about a subject which has affected me personally, and that's the deterioration of motion picture film. I've always read about how Hollywood has gone out of their way to preserve some of the early movies from the turn of the 20th century because the films were starting to rot and decay and made them totally unprojectionable. And I've had a personal experience with that, and I would like to share that with you in this video. This involves about 2,000 feet of movie film, which I have right here on a 16 millimeter reel. And believe it or not, this is movies which I made about 42 years ago, back in 1966. And it's a number of films which is put together. Let me show you a few things here. Back in those early days, I had a Bolex 16 millimeter movie camera back then, and it was a silent camera. But I've always been fascinated with sound film and now pretty primitive ways of putting sound on film. So back then, what I did was I also had a VM reel-to-reel tape recorder. And what I would do would be to get out my reel-to-reel tape, and I would turn on my tape recorder at the same time that I would run the movie camera, and then record the sound, and then would project them back at the same time. And luckily, my projector at the time had a little rheostat on it, so I could keep it in sync by speeding it up, slowing it down as necessary. And so here's some of the films which I did back in those early 60s that might be of interest. And they are. First of all, here's my first spoken words, which was my first 16 millimeter film in synchronized sound. Splendor in the Class, which was a takeoff which I did in June of 1966 along with Alan Chapman, and it was a talent show movie which we put together. This is Vistascope, which was my first widescreen movie. Again, all of these are in black and white, by the way, also. And then followed up by A Weekend in Atlantic City, which was one of my early color movies, also in Vistascope, or anamorphic film, or anamorphic projection, actually. And then Experiment in Motion, which is already up on YouTube, and a movie which I made in January of 1969 called The Boston Struggler, and that was for a motion picture class, which I was taking at the time. So these soundtracks are actually playable. Believe it or not, this reel-to-reel tape is still good and still can play it very easily and everything. Just have to transfer it to something a little more modern than reel-to-reel. So I was pleased that I found the soundtrack. And then, luckily, I came across the movie film itself. This is the 2,000-foot reel of these movies all spliced together so I could show them at one time in sound. And so I said, this is great, and this is something which not only I can now transfer to DVD for myself, but I can also put up the results on YouTube. Okay. This was all a great plan until I actually opened up the film can itself to get the movie out, to put it on the projector. And then when I did that, this is what I found. Look at that. Oh, I could not believe it. Now, needless to say, I didn't store the film under, ideal conditions. It's been in a garage. It's been in my laundry room. It's been around. I mean, I haven't put it outdoors or stored it, out in a shed somewhere or anything, but it was put under halfway decent conditions. But, needless to say, the rusty reel and the film is totally ruined. And there is absolutely no way that any of this can be projected, and what I'm going to have to do is wind up throwing it all out. Look at that. Oh, I could not believe it. Now, needless to say, I didn't store the film under, ideal conditions. It's been in a garage. It's been in my laundry room. It's been around. I mean, I haven't put it outdoors or stored it, out in a shed somewhere or anything, but it was put under halfway decent conditions. But, needless to say, the rusty reel and the film is totally ruined. and there is absolutely no way that any of this can be projected. And what I'm going to have to do is wind up throwing it all out, which, believe me, that really hurts when you have to throw away some of your first examples of movie film from that many years ago. And look at the inside of the can, started to rust. And, it's not evident from the outside so much. The can looks fairly clean, but boy, when I opened it up, and when I actually opened it up, there's this strong chemical smell. It smells like vinegar. And I knew I was in trouble before I even saw it. And when I popped the lid and saw this mess inside, I knew that the films were lost forever. So let this be a warning to all of you out there that if you have any old home movie film, I would suggest you copy it over to videotape or preferably DVD, or even if you have any type of a high def DVD recorder at this time, like Blu-ray or whatever, you may want to copy these things over right away, because I waited. Now I have to. It seems to me I had copied these once upon a time on an old beta tape, but I've yet to find those tapes. So, as far as I know, this movie is totally gone. So, what can I say? It's gone forever. Now, the Weekend in Atlantic City film is up on YouTube. So, and that's from again, a 25-year-old beta tape. So, apparently I copied some of it over at one time. But these other movies now only can play in my head. So anyway, that is just a warning to all of you who have some old movies or home movies around. You had better copy them as soon as possible, and you better go take a peek at them. I lost also about 400 feet of 8mm film, including the first movies I ever shot back in 1960, and those are gone also. Exactly the same. And those I had kept in my closet in my house because I figured that would be the best conditions I would have. But again, this old film, just those chemicals keep working over the years and you wind up with nothing. So let that be a warning to you out there, okay? So I hope that maybe this will bring to light some of the problems that can happen to your home movies when they are stored under less than ideal conditions around your home. Okay, so this is Kerry Decker. Thanking you for your time this time. Until next time, we'll see you again real soon. Goodbye now.